A reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah. Comfort, give comfort to my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem, and proclaim to her that her service is at an end. Her guilt is expiated. Indeed, she has received from the hand of the Lord double for all her sins. A voice cries out, in the desert prepare the way of the Lord. Make straight in the wasteland a highway for our God. Every valley shall be filled in, every mountain and hill shall be made low. The rugged land shall be made a plain, the rough country a broad valley. Then the glory of the Lord will be revealed, and all people shall see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. Go up onto a high mountain, Zion, herald of glad tidings. Cry out at the top of your voice, Jerusalem, herald of good news. Fear not to cry out, and say to the cities of Judah, here is your God. Here comes with power the Lord God, who rules by his strong arm. Here is his reward with him, his recompense before him. Like a shepherd he feeds his flock. In his arms he gathers the lambs, carrying them in his bosom, and leading the ewes with care. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Karl Marx once said that religion is the opiate of the masses. And if he heard our reading tonight, telling Zion to go up and be a herald of glad tidings, to cry out to Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, he might think of this as sort of a Magna Carta for the largest opium distributor in the world. He'd be very disappointed. But I don't think he's right, and I think you're here tonight because you don't think he's right either. That this isn't just a drug that is given to people so that they can get through life in a sort of haze, ignoring the real problems. The beauty of the gospel is not that it makes us forget our problems, but that it gives us love sufficient to face them squarely. When I was in Albuquerque doing CPE, hospital chaplaincy, I was shadowing one of the full-time chaplains, and I was preparing for my first on-call shift, so it was just her and I at night, and it was a very, very busy night. And she got a call, a woman was crying in the lobby, and so she said, well, could you take care of this? I said, yeah, sure, no problem. And they had a nice little place in the lobby where chairs were set up, and there was a piano, and people would sometimes come in the lobby and play nice music for people who were there and just wanted a place to sit and sort of meditate and relax. And as I'm walking towards this place, there's a group of chairs, and there's this woman sitting down, her back towards me. And she's sitting there just sort of conducting the person who's playing the piano. And I sat down by her, and her eyes were filled with tears, and she was in a state of profound grief. She had lost the first child of her first son very recently at the hospital 3 weeks ago, and she had been coming back to that place. And she was telling me she didn't understand why God did this to her. You know, why is it that he allowed her to suffer so much? Why did this beautiful grandchild have to be taken from her? And all these themes of, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And unable to confront the reality. And so picking up on this theme of, I don't know, I thought of Job and his response to God. It's sort of God saying to him, look, who are you to tell me my business? And Job saying, all right. And I talked to her about this, and that was a really bad idea. And she went from sad to angry. And she said, I just want to punch him. I just want to punch God in his face. Because she didn't understand how this could be part of his loving plan. And so at this point, obviously having failed in attempt number 1, I decided to sort of throw a Hail Mary pass. And I talked to her about our Blessed Mother, and I said, sometimes the love of God is a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing, terrifying in what God asks us to endure. How did he treat his own mother? He gives her this precious little baby, and when he's presented in the temple, she finds out that a sword will pierce your heart. She will suffer because she loves, not in spite of the fact that she loves. And that sword finally comes when she's standing at the foot of the cross, watching her only son, the Son of God, the light of her life, being tortured to death. And yet God was with her, and God loved her, and she never abandoned the love of God, even though it caused so much suffering. And she knew even in that moment that He loved her, that her Son cared for her, even though He allowed her to endure this suffering. And I couldn't believe the change that this woman underwent. She was still very much in grief, but she said, "Thank you. Thank you so much." She went on and on as I actually got kind of embarrassed. But she was just so moved by the fact that knowing that God could still be there in this moment of grief for her. And so this saving truth, this religion as Marx would call it, was not an opiate that numbed her, but gave her the strength to face clearly the death of her son and the truth that this was part of God's plan and that He was still with her in this moment in spite of everything. And so I think the lesson for us in all of this is to cling tightly to God, to wait. Because in waiting, with hope, as Pope Benedict says in Spe Salvi, makes God, the God that we wait for, actually present within us here and now. And that in the celebration of Advent, the waiting isn't just about looking towards the future, but enjoying and loving the God that we know with the absolute certainty of faith loves us and will be born at Christmas. His coming is sure. God's love is sure. And so then, we can, like Zion, be a herald of glad tidings, and obey God's command to comfort, to give comfort to His people.